Witch, Yahoo, Phantom of the Forest, you Spear, Finger, Fire Dragon, Ohio Grassman, Silver Giant, Bloodless Howler, West Virginia Vampire, Coyote King, Hogzilla, Devil, Dark Coyote Killer. Cave creature, Mothman, Smoke Wolf, Lizard Demon, Ashman, Grafton Monster, Cow-killing Bastard, Shadow Creature, Dustman, Cherokee, Death Cat, Wild Man, Great Fire Rape. What else do I have to say? Steal yourself some chicken wire, and I'll get some lumber. Catch the Thunder Brothers. Don't you dare get out of the golf cart. We can keep our big seats while we hunt the big feet. Snallygaster, Road Team, Red Island Bear Beast, Silver Giant, Squalling Savage, Black Wolf was kind of average, Stone Giant, Raven Mocker, Midnight Whistler, Wampus Beast, Wawa Woman, Ohio Grassman again. Technically Huckleberry, Wolfman or Wolf County, need to find the X again if we hunt the Lightning Man. Welch's Werewolf, Daily Howl, Kentucky Hellhound, Little Girl, Headless Horror, I can't take it anymore. Steal yourself some chicken wire, and I'll get some lumber. Catch the Thunder Brothers. Don't you dare get out of the golf cart. We can keep our big seats while we hunt the big feet.
This here's BIGFEETS, the only Mountain Monsters watch-along podcast. I'm Robert Brockway, and when it comes to sexy big feet, I'm an Ashman.
And I'm Sean Baby. Great job, Jean-Claude. I was afraid you were going to go completely berserk, and for real, he turned to me. What do you think, Frank? I gave him the thumbs up. To tell the truth, the fight had exhausted me, even though I merely watched from the sidelines. I felt as if I had been through the match myself, without any faked blows or pulled punches. The memory of the real match had been pounded into every muscle, every bone, and every nerve in my body. My body remembered, and had reacted to every blow. I remembered that I had broken out into an intense sweat. I headed for the studio bathroom to splash some water on my face, but a local extra squatted on the sink, evidently unaware of his mistake. Such sights were frequent around the set. One of the grips told me that the producers had picked up homeless men to fill the stands for the Kumite scene, and there were rumors that a mental institution was leasing its patients to the production. The true story of, you can really tell when you're watching Bloodsport and you look at the people in the crowd, you're like, oh, that's a mental patient, hobo, both.
And I am New York Times bestselling author Jason Pargin.
You have to give it proper time to settle before you can follow a homeless man crapping in the sink while during the finale of filming Bloodsport. While the real Bloodsport looks on in disapproval. This isn't what I bloodsported for. This isn't the country I bloodsported for.
Grandmaster Ninja, upon whom this true story film was based, is this not the toilet sink?
As you can obviously tell, this is a Mountain Monsters watch-along podcast. Mountain Monsters is a hillbilly cryptid reality hunting show, like when they hunt ghosts on those Discovery Channel or whatever reality shows, and they hear a noise and go, oh no, it's a ghost, but you never see or hear anything. Not this show. They fight Bigfoot every episode and lose badly every episode, often inventing new types of losing just to lose that way. It's incredible. It's beautiful. We're watching every single episode by episode. This episode is Mountain Monsters Season 2, Episode 16, Bigfoot of Wirt County, the Ashman. And before we get into it, what do we want to plug today, Jason?
The most recent book is called I'm Starting to Worry About This Black Box of Doom. Just Google that title or search it on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or ask for it at the counter of your local bookstore. Or look up to see if there's some reviews for it. There's actually hundreds of them. And most of them are pretty positive.
I'd like to plug Jason's book, of course, great book, and 1-900hotdog.com, which is we recreate the golden age of internet comedy with well-paid, human, high-effort articles about deranged things with weekly updates, daily updates. Go to patreon.com/1900hotdog. And we're the last people to do it, and we're the best.
And we will be the last people to do it. Nobody will follow.
That's true.
Nobody will follow this. I'd like to just mention our YouTube channel real quick where you can watch this episode. You can watch this episode live on YouTube. Well, not live, but, live action. Because we do have we have an animated podcast for the Dog Zone 9000, our other podcast, and we have the live action video feed of us filming this podcast on our YouTube channel, 1-900 Hot Dog.
Yeah, including showing us talking. So all of the comments on the YouTube uploads are just about like asking if I wear the same shirt every single day.
Yes.
No, I have multiple
yes.
copies of this shirt.
No, he doesn't.
I don't wear the same one.
We used to call him in the cracked offices one shirt Pargin. And my God, that shirt has seen some things. They're all about how handsome we are and how much better it is to watch us speak the words than it is simply to hear them. So go check that out. We always forget to mention that, even though it's doing okay. It's doing okay. Little channel. Like I said, we are watching Mountain Monsters Season 2, Episode 16, Bigfoot of Wirt County, the Ash Man. That's according to the HBO Max order, which means nothing. No order means anything. Chaos can only reign here. There's just whatever you feel like watching is what it is. So we're gonna open on Buck's truck briefing, where it's just Buck and Jeff together in the truck.
It's weird.
Buck is kicking somebody out of the truck every few weeks. So in a few episodes from now, it's just going to be Buck by himself, just talking to the camera, because apparently nobody else can satisfy him. I don't know.
Maybe he wanted a sports car, and they said, you can't have a sports car. You need to bring the whole team with you. And he's like, what if he kicks everybody out of the car and it's just him, and then he can get like a Maserati from the production? Maybe that's his plan.
Buck, you can't have a Maserati. Don't make us say why. Just don't. I don't know why you're doing this to yourself, man.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about.
So Buck starts off by saying, Jeff, why'd I have to come all the way up here to pick you up? That doesn't really go. It's just he's antagonistic.
He's setting up being alone in a car.
He hates Jeff. He hates being alone with them. If I was Jeff and Buck pulled up in like the big company meetup truck alone, I would be like, I'm not getting in that with you. I know what you're gonna do to me. That's a trap. But no, Jeff does get in, and it turns out they're heading to Buck's hometown, Wirt County, West Virginia, which is not a town.
Not a town.
Whatever.
They're going to do that for the rest of the episode because it's also Huckleberry's hometown. He's going to keep saying, we're here in my hometown of Wirt County.
And they're going to go after their hometown Bigfoot. Everybody, that's the dream, right? You make it big, you come back to your hometown and go after the local Bigfoot. Finally, you're finally ready. So we like to research the monster. We research their local Bigfoot to find out if it's based on anything or if they're just making it up. I couldn't find anything for the Ashman, but more AI nonsense pulling from this specific Ames episode, which is as tragic as it sounds for the modern internet. But it does sound like they are continuing to do the thing where they take an actual piece of Indian folklore and then just replace it with Bigfoot. Just put a Bigfoot in there. Like, if this was the Bible, they would be telling you a story about Jesus, only instead of Jesus, they would say the word Bigfoot. That's what it is. And Bigfoot. They would add a Bigfoot. They can either do a replacement Bigfoot or an additional Bigfoot. They make a decision at some point. Here, I think they've replaced the thing with the Bigfoot. But then
Bigfoot did run on water last episode. Just, I'm throwing it out there.
Yeah, it could be. It could be a Jesus foot. It could be a Christ foot. It's true.
Bucks. Oh, I did not make that connection till just now. They were hunting Jesus Christ. Buck says, as we all know, that Huckleberry had an experience with a Bigfoot decades ago, but he has never come out and talked about it.
There's no organic time to bring it up.
Episode 36 of the show. This is your first time mentioning that's the backstory lore of Huckleberry, is that he had.
Amazing.
Throughout the episode, they will do this. They will continue to phrase it like this in a very mysterious and traumatic way, as though I can't be just me. It's as though Huckleberry, as a teenager, was molested by a Bigfoot. Yeah. That's the tone they're going for, and I'm not trying to be goofy.
The listener thinks you're joking. We'll get to it because they're gonna hit this beat many times, and it always has the same tone the way they tell the story.
Right away, as soon as they said this line, I'm like, was Huckleberry molested by a Bigfoot? Because there's no other way to take it the way they deliver that line.
Always framed like an unspeakable trauma, and he is a Bigfoot hunter, so like he talks about Bigfoot all day long. It would be weird for him to like, Bigfoot's too scary for me to talk about. The only reason he would have for that is something that you can't speak of it.
We're gonna get to it.
It's so terrible.
Because they're gonna But they mention the Ashman. Huckleberry says, or Buck says, it's over 7 feet tall, 600 pounds, blackish gray fur. So this is one of the smaller Bigfeet. So when coming up with a Bigfoot that was Huckleberry's nemesis, the thing that made him want it's his great white whale. It's actually a dainty little Bigfoot. It's the daintiest one. It's just a miniature little Bigfoot. It's unremarkable.
Barely bigger than Huckleberry now.
I can size it. This is if Shaquille O'Neal just like let himself go. Just just.
But he's
830 bags of Shaqalicious gummies. Like that's what we're dealing with. It's just a elderly, overweight Shaq.
Can't stop eating his own head. It's a problem. It's a problem we've all had. So, Jeff says, the Ashman was first spotted in the 1700s by the Shawnee Indians. How many fucking times have these Bigfeet been spotted for the first time by the Shawnee specifically in the 7th? That was like an apocalyptic century for them. They were just absolutely destroyed by new types of Bigfoot.
To the point that, again, I'm going to say it. I won't say it for the rest of the episode. If you go back and watch this show from the beginning, all 35 previous episodes, they never need that truck briefing scene. Now, I know that's a ridiculous thing to say because technically they don't need any of this. I'm saying that if you're any amateur aspiring writers out there, when you sit down and write your story, there's a real good chance that you started this story too early. Like you could cut your first scene and come in here and it's actually better. Like if you started with the character driving to the thing, it's like, hey, you can just have him pop in the door. That's actually better. Here, that truck briefing is always superfluous. And the fact that Jeff has just fallen into this rut of, the Shawnee saw it 300 years ago, just over and over and over again. It's like, that adds nothing. You can just have them arriving at Huckleberry's house or just pulling up to talk to the first witness. There's never anything in that truck that's enjoyable to watch or anything. And they try to do a little comedy bit sometimes. They'll make fun of how fat one of them is or something like that, but they never need that scene.
I thought this scene was kind of interesting. You're exactly right, but the way this went off the rails was like kind of unique because while Jeff is like, they was discovered by the Shawnee and the Ohio Valley Native tribes, Buck interrupts and says, I know a little about this story. And then Jeff kind of challengingly says, oh yeah? Then why do they call him the Ashman? And Buck says, the Indians were having a feast and eating all these foods. And then out of the smoke from the ashes, a Bigfoot jumps out the fire. And Jeff says, wow. So he wasn't challenging him. He's like, oh yeah? Well, how come they call him Ashman? He's like, oh, wow, you really know. That's great. He jumped out of a fire. Okay. I don't know.
It's the second week in a row they've done this, where Jeff has started to do his researcher thing. And then after one sentence, Buck just jumps in and is like, and then blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, so if you both knew, why did you need to say it to each other? Are we acknowledging that the camera's there and that you're shooting a TV show? Because again, the fiction was supposed to be, this is where Jeff, the researcher, informs the rest of you and you react to him and say, really? Whoa, that's so strange. That's scary. And instead it's like, well, the Shawnee 17, and then Buck just jumps in like, the legend was this happened. It's like, okay, so I guess we didn't need to say anything in the truck. We could just go.
Well, there's one more thing to say. Buck says, and there are more people who have had encounters with the Ashman and are afraid to speak of it.
So something is very scary about this Bigfoot.
People are afraid to speak about what they've seen, and says that Huckleberry was so shaken by the Ashman that he hasn't talked about it in almost 50 years.
The tone of this is so fucked up. And then the logic
is a little busted too. Because as you say, that people say they don't want to talk about it, but like, you're the dickhead who brought up Bigfoot. You could have just not told me about the Bigfoot you saw. Like, why are you so scared of sharing the details, but not of telling people that you saw him? But I guess that's like what Huckleberry is.
The implication, yes. It's very strong, very troubling implication we're making very early in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I do think some listeners are already afraid that they are simply recycling the Wampus Beast episode, which was episode 4, where you may remember it was Willie's farm that was attacked, and then suddenly at some point they retconned a thing where Willie had an encounter with the Wampus Beast when he was just 9 years old. And that's what started him on his life of monster hunting because of this experience. And now this thing's terrorizing his hogs at his hog farm. And that's his motivation to confront that trauma. And at one point he like loses it and goes running after it alone in the woods. And I think people worry that this episode is just going to repeat that beat for beat, including the finale of the Wampus Beast, where they came to the big net trap they'd created and found that the Wampus Beast was so strong that it actually ripped out the side of the net and ran away. And they're going to arrive at the trap and find just a huge hole in it. I can see why you would think that.
They go a really different direction. Spoiler. It's nothing like that.
They always have to end on a little comedy beat. They've decided the truck briefing has to end on a joke. I don't know where and why that was established, but it ends with them doing a far shot of the truck, and Buck says, "Jeff, don't touch my radio," and Jeff goes, "Ow!" Like he's been pinched.
I was so annoyed by this.
That's the rush hour bit. It's the rush hour bit, and I'll give them that Buck might be the Chris Tucker of Appalachia, but Jeff is not the Jackie Chan.
Jeff's not the Jackie Chan. No.
I will not fucking accept that. Get that out of your mouth. Fuck you for trying that.
Wild Bill is obviously the Jackie Chan.
Yes. Thank you. Glad.
Always falling off of stuff. More or less unkillable.
Sometimes unintelligible, but God, we love him anyway. It's just, it's right there.
A funny part here where Buck says he can't think of a better place to prove Bigfoot exists than right here in his hometown of Wirt County, West Virginia. Which is funny to me because in his mind, he still hasn't proved that Bigfoot exists. Like they had an actual Bigfoot artifact. They mapped the Bigfoot waterway migration paths from maps drawn by Bigfoot. I can show him on my wife's HBO account where a Bigfoot hand grabbed him and they filmed it.
Filmed his actual physical body several times. It doesn't count. It doesn't count. So it's time to meet our first witness, and it's Huckleberry. Huckleberry is our first witness, and he does the impossible, and he allows them into his home.
For the first time.
Incredible.
Felt invasive. I
really
didn't
did.
like this, but they have, they've set this up because as I had mentioned in Buck's era of running the show, they set up these big acting scenes with the big monologue they've got to spout. And this is Huckleberry's big acting thing that he's going to do. And he decided to do it in his parlor, whatever.
Yeah. Just again, the way they frame this, it's like a cloudy day out and they're just at this very austere table across from each other while Huckleberry very simply tells them, like, what I'm going to tell you guys has bothered me for 46 years. It's hard to talk about. And I'm only telling you guys this because we're friends. We're family. It started 46 years ago in 1969. We had a garden back there on the hill. We'd drive out. Like, he's doing the whole, I'm going to tell you all the mundane setup to the story and then get to the horrible atrocities.
There is one good laugh here. Because he's giving all these details about, like, they're picking beans and blah, 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 getting dinner. And there are way too many details. And then in the middle of it, he says, so we went out to a horse trail. And then Jeff takes out his notebook and, like, presumably writes down horse trail. Like, cracks me up that he didn't write down beans or tomatoes, but horse trail is like, hey, fucking good story.
At one point says, now, me and my brother, we both had a tomato. I remember that. Because we was eating tomatoes, and that was the thing to do.
And Huckleberry is 16 in the story, he says.
16.
It happened in
Just run around eating tomatoes on a horse trail.
And he is flailing.
So you might be wondering the horrible atrocities that happened, and it was that they finally came to this sort of drop down in the woods, and down there they saw something like doing something in the bushes. All of the saplings were rustling back and forth, and then his brother threw a rock, and then they watched this great big hand and forearm come out of the top of the brush, and it was so big, and that's the end of the story.
Well, now hold on. So if that thing got hold of your head, it would squish it like a tomato.
Like a tomato.
Tying
But it
into
didn't.
symbolism that they were carrying tomatoes with them.
It didn't
and
get
here's where you're
a hold of
saying,
the head.
oh my God, this thing crushed his brother's head. And just as in the Chupacabra episode where Trapper's telling the story in the truck about, well, I've been obsessed with the Chupacabra. I've been stalking this thing across the world ever since I worked at my brother's farm in Costa Rica. And one day, and his Trapper story was, one day I heard some men talking about how there was Chupacabra around there, and you're listening thinking, oh, it either attacked those men or it killed his brother. But the story just ends. Like he forgot to tell the story part of the story. This story, he sees the hand come up, and that's it. That's the finale of the story. Is they threw a rock at the creature. They were the aggressors here. It was just down there eating that golden delicious apples or
it could have been
or
jacking
whatever.
it, I guess. Like maybe that's kind of messed up. Like they were just talking about how they seen the bushes rustling real hard. Like it. I mean,
and then
That's true.
That's
It could have been
traumatizing.
really embarrassing.
starts working so hard because he's given him nothing. And Buck says, Huckleberry don't impress easy. So for him to be impressed by this creature's forearms, it must be massive. Because that's all he's given him. He just
It's
saw an
all
arm
he's
come
got.
up and slap
Yep.
the bushes. That's it. That's the whole story.
I also like the idea of Huckleberry not impressing easy because last week Buck told a folktale about a coyote stealing fire, and Huckleberry interrupted to say, "Boy, oh boy, that coyote sure sounds real smart. He must have been patient and clever." Like, it doesn't take a lot to get Huckleberry to just stop everything and get marveled by the thing you said.
and it ruined his life.
This Bigfoot is 20% smaller than the one they fought last
Yes.
week. It's much smaller than the fire ape. The fire ape's
Shorter,
supposed to be 8.5 feet tall. This one's 7. This is
And lighter.
nothing. This is one of the smallest big feet they've ever encountered.
It's Fat Shaq. It's Fat Shaq. You saw Fat Shaq, and it ruined your life. As a Shaq fan, I understand that, but I don't think it's as universal a trauma that we can all access.
The weird tone comes in because he says after the hand came up, they ran away. Says his grandpa told him not to talk about it to anybody. I wish I'd listened, he says. This is word for word. People have been just downright mean. It's hard to talk about. I've been ridiculed. I've been thrown out of school. To this day, people laugh at you. This thing damn near ruined my life. It ruined my brother's. My brother will not talk whatsoever about this. There's not one day that goes by that I don't think about this Bigfoot. He's in my head and I can't get him out. So strongly implying that he stopped the story, but that a thing happened that his grandpa and everybody told him, we don't talk about this. This is just like ruined him. It was the end of his childhood. So it's implying that he did not tell the whole story, that was the beginning, but he leaves the rest of it unspoken.
It's so
I don't know how you get molested by a Bigfoot so hard you get thrown out of school, though. Like, something doesn't add up.
Well, he talked about it, and his brother didn't. So that's why he got. There's no way this makes sense as an experience if you saw a Bigfoot hand and you came to school and you were like, I saw a really big hand, and they're like, get the fuck out of school. You can't be.
You're out.
You can't have
Expulsion.
The rest of his life they called him Big Hand Boy. Like.
Here in West Virginia in 1969, we don't go for that non-scientific tall tale nonsense. We believe in the rational world of what can be proven by science. You don't bring that foolishness here, you 16-year-old child.
He's on the 4th season of a Bigfoot hunting show, and he would not tell his fellow Bigfoot hunters about the one time he saw a Bigfoot because he's been made fun of so many times for seeing Bigfoot.
Yeah.
A Bigfoot actually hypnotized him and stripped him nude last season.
Yeah.
And
On camera.
He had his friends film it and then broadcast it around the world.
Yeah.
You
For
can't
money.
say I saw a hand one time. The trauma's too personal. No, there has to be something else there, and it's fucking crazy what they're doing.
It is a crazy life he's chosen for himself if talking about a Bigfoot is like his greatest source of shame. It implies that like a life where no one believes his deranged lies about Bigfoot means he's like constantly reliving his greatest humiliation and frustration. But
Which
but again,
could be trapped in a trauma cycle. That makes sense.
sure.
Well, here's the thing, is that you know where this would have played really well? In the first freaking episode of the show. If this had been the pilot, like they formed the Bigfoot hunting team that go out to talk to their friend who's just finally ready to tell them his secret. And they're like, let's go out there and get a trap builder and let's go catch this thing and let that be the origin story. Make this a flashback episode. Have it come up on the screen, 2009. It does, like put some young age CGI on their faces, whatever.
Of course.
Just give them all bowl cuts so that they look like...
No, you bring in the cast of UFO Cowboys. They're all just hunks.
That's how you do it.
With like the 5 o'clock shadow hunks. Like, hello, Huckleberry. Hi, welcome to my home, Jeff. I want to tell you about my secret. I want to form a monster hunting team, and here's why. I was molested by a Bigfoot when I was 16 years old in 1969.
I feel like that's 9 years over the age of consent in their county.
Okay, no.
Like,
I was trying to
we're
get
using.
Huckleberry goes on to say, it's been 46 years since this encounter. There's not one day goes by I don't think about this Bigfoot. He's in my head. I can't get him out. I'm ready to go after him. I'm gonna confront my demon. Does that make any sense if all that happened was he saw a big hand?
No.
No, he's leaving something out. Or he's an idiot and a terrible storyteller. I'm just throwing it out there that this might be the work of dumb fucks. Is a potential explanation.
Having this happen in episode 36, the problem is there's no way to know that if you go, because he's not seen this thing since. Why would he think it's even still alive? Big feet die. That's been established. We watched the Stonish giant die to 2 gunshots. Bigfoot are not immortal. So 1, if he's never seen it since then, why would he think it's 1, still alive, 2, out in that same spot? They travel all over via the waterways, also an established part of the lore. And if he went out of his property and happened to find a Sasquatch, how would he know it's 1, an Ashman, 2, his Ashman, and not one of the dozen tribes of Big Feet that Trapper already has established inhabit the Appalachian area and intermingle, sometimes in packs of a dozen or more?
And all of this happened in the backyard of the house he's currently in, literally in the garden. So, I don't know how he'd feel safe taking a bath, in that ever again. Hey,
Ever.
maybe he doesn't. Oh, Huckleberry
That's true.
explained. So it's time for the night investigation. Buck, Huckleberry, and Jeff are in, again, Huckleberry's nice garden in his backyard. Huckleberry says, I'm gonna grab my soul back from this Ashman, and I'm gonna bring back my life the way it should be. And the others give him a hell yeah, but he just said this life I am currently living is a sham, and I want a proper one.
I want to go back. Yeah, I want to go back to where I'm not this weirdo who goes out in the woods and hunts snallygasters every weekend. I
need to excise the Bigfoot from my brain so I can stop hanging out with you fucking losers. Get back. I want to get married to not a chupacabra.
I do feel like at the beginning of this shoot, they bet him that he could make every single line a trailer line, because everything he says is that bombastic, strident, I'm going to get my soul back from the Ashman. He's just picturing in his head like how cool that's going to play on the little sizzle reel. The
sizzle reel's 47 minutes long, and then the episode is just him standing around in the garden.
crying in his fucking
It
backyard.
didn't work. They head out into, once again, Huckleberry's backyard where he used to grow beans and eat tomatoes with no problems.
Until the day he saw an arm,
Until the
and
day he
it
saw
ruined him forever.
Until the day he saw a fat Shaq arm.
Says walking out there, this is probably the scaredest I've ever been.
Scaredest he's ever been.
You were marked for death by an immortal witch 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Again, you
You
had
woke
to
up
create
nude in a swamp with your entire mind taken over by Bigfoot.
with no idea of what it had made you do during that period, and did it make you form a throuple with its Cherokee child bride?
You narrowly averted an apocalypse 2 weeks ago. Just
Very
2 weeks
narrowly,
ago.
yeah, with a plan that should not have worked.
One that you calls. So once again, they find a mysterious patch where no life grows. Like, this is new Bigfoot lore. They're like, oh, he must have been here. And Jeff says, oh, it must have pissed. So, like, I guess it scans, sheep squatch, that the piss is so caustic it destroys all life where it lands.
Yep.
And what Buck does is he says, get down there and smell it, Jeff.
Jeff, now you think he's being bullied, but Jeff does not need to hear that command a second time. He's
No.
like, yum, yum, pee-pee boy's time to shine.
They establish, in fact, that this is Jeff's new superpower bestowed on him by Trapper. He's the official piss boy. He's the magnificent piss boy.
He's the piss master.
Sniffer of piss.
That being said, he blows it real hard because he goes, man, this smells bad. But like, this is his area of expertise because he can't do thermal. He can't do research anymore. He's definitely not good at psychic combat. But piss, this is something he should have been like, oh, this tastes like Bigfoot hasn't been here for 7 days. No, 8. And he's not drinking enough water. And he's recently taken a lover. A centaur. No. Just regular horse. Nothing. Just, oh, boy, I don't like the smell of this pee-pee.
It's incredible that he embraces the role of piss boy so easily. Just, I hate to say it, but maybe you deserve it, Jeff. Like, I really want to be on the side of the victim here, but I don't know. When you rejoice in being the piss boy, and also when you fuck it up this badly, because he comes back up and says, I think I got a Bigfoot booger. No, you're the piss boy. And Jeff says,
that's not what we're doing.
Don't you blow your nose when you piss? What? No.
I don't think you can.
Well, Buck
Yeah, it's like
catches
sneezing
on to
and
that.
coughing.
Buck catches on to that and says, wait, I just figured something. That means he has to use both hands. He's sitting down to pee.
That's not what that means.
But
Buck
it
is
is.
a worse penis detective than he is a Bigfoot detective because
then-
what that means is Jeff has such a ropey hog that he needs 2 hands to wrangle it. That doesn't mean he's sitting down to pee.
Or it means
Nonsense.
that he's such a just unrepentant, glorious piss boy that he just lets it fire across the bathroom every time. And just piss goes where it may in the Jeff home.
But we still get Buck doing an interview to camera saying, Jeff sits down to pee. And
I think
that
the
like
HBO subtitle said maniacal laughter.
Yeah, he laughs insanely for a long time, and then that's the end of the testimony. He has nothing else to say.
No, he had nothing to add. Because now we're going to cut back to Huckleberry, haunted and traumatized by his childhood encounter, saying, they go to walking and saying, this is the farthest I've ever made it. In your yard?
Yeah. He's doing the Samwise.
Well, then the
in
garden's
his
still here,
backyard.
though. Does you make your wife come out to where the Bigfoot molested you? Because you don't want to... Because
I feel like we're moving past it. Jeff found a booger and then said, guys, this means he was blowing his nose while he peed. And they're like, what are you talking about? And he said, don't you blow snot rockets when you pee? And then Buck said, ha, 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 that means you sit down when you pee. And nothing dissuaded him from that. He never thought about it again. No one said, like, no, it doesn't. What are you talking about? And that's where we left it. I want everyone to know that that's what happened.
And it also means Buck and Huckleberry tacitly accepted, yes, we all blow our nose when we pee.
Right. But we use a hand. It's not a snot rocket. We use a Kleenex. Like,
So they freeze in the woods because Huckleberry has found the spot where he and his brother were molested by Bigfoot. I'm sorry, that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing with this episode. I swear to God, it's not me. They find Bigfoot sign, and then the most shocking thing of all, cute little rock cairns. Like, like the kind the national parks keep asking basic hiking bitches to stop doing. They find those and they react.
You stack rocks. You stack little rocks and kind of balance them.
Just little balanced rocks like you'd find in a grandma's garden, and the music goes full psycho, just as it zooms in on cute stacked rock after cute stacked rock. Buck
the
says,
crossing of the Sasquatch threshold.
I've never seen anything like this. Jeff says, I've only seen it in a book, and it's not good.
Huckleberry screams, "We're in it now.
We're in it now." Tell me you have never been hiking a day in your life without telling me you've never been hiking a day in your life.
Bucket is really doing a lot of heavy lifting to try to make these dumb things like bigger. So he says, I'm a big man. I'm pretty strong. I couldn't pick up some of these rocks. There's not a rock among them that weighs more than 30 pounds.
They show them all. They're like grandma's paving stones, like how she makes a cute path to the well. Like there's no rock there that's more than 30 pounds. Buck also says, it's like they strategically placed one rock on top of the other. Yes. Yes, it is like that. And then he says,
the Indians call that stacking.
They named it after Edmund stacking. Buck says there must be 10 piles of. That's the lot. That's the number. 10 is the number you went to. That's like somebody put 10.
They must have no hobbies. These big feet.
That's 30, 40 minutes work of one grandmother. Impossible. It must be the work of the Ash Man. And then Huckleberry starts vomiting in horror. He starts retching because he's so terrified by the sight of this. It says, I can't go on. I'm sorry. I can't do it. Not tonight.
He gives us a monologue about how the last time he cried, he was 13 when he had to shoot his pet dog. And now, this moment equally as bad, seeing Grandma's crafts project.
I wrote down that whole speech, if you'd indulge me.
Of course you did.
He says, last time I cried, I was 13 years old. I had to shoot my pet dog. It got run over by a car. My dad told me it was time to grow up. That was part of being on a farm. That was the last time I ever had tears of mine. I promised myself I'd never cry again. But it's fucking out the window because he saw some rocks stacked.
Because he saw what children do when they're bored in a national park.
This is an extremely
therapy day on Mountain Monsters.
That's an extremely minor point, but he keeps specifying it was 46 years ago, 1969. This is 2015, whatever, do the math. And then whenever it comes to Buck always says, well, when he saw this thing 50 years ago, he just rounds it up, which I feel like that's not a thing you do with traumatic events like that. You wouldn't be like, well, because you haven't been the same since your wife died 10, 15 years ago. Like you would know the exact year is what I'm saying. You wouldn't have a range, but Buck keeps rounding it to 50.
Also, it was the summer of 69, man. It's real. There's a song that Huckleberry presumably cannot listen to.
I got my first Bigfoot molesting.
All right. Shit. So Huckleberry says he never will make it back to the spot where he had that encounter. I thought they passed that spot a while, at the least of their worries here. So we cut to Wild Bill and Willie's Crackhead Trap Shack. And Wild Bill's really trying to sell that new catchphrase. He goes, he's coming in stealth, ain't he? And then it cuts to Huckleberry just pedaling up in a little golf cart, just puttering along. And he's like, he's coming in stealth, ain't he? Like, oh, that's a really cool guy driving up in his little forest golf cart. And Huckleberry tells them, we have never, ever been up against a Bigfoot that is as strong as this Ash Man. We get him contained in this trap, he's gonna go bazonkers.
This haunted man, this man who is so traumatized he can barely function, says, we get him contained in that trap, he's gonna go bazonkers.
Literally 30 seconds ago, he was telling a tragic tale of his life destroyed, 2 lives destroyed by Bigfoot molestation, and now he's gonna go bazonkers in there. He's gonna go just like he went bazonkers on me all those years ago.
I don't know how he's measuring this though, because he's going by his childhood memories of a forearm he saw. And that's not nothing. Like, if you saw a big forearm, you'd be like, I bet that's a really strong forearm. But they fought that one Bigfoot that did the hypersonic deer snapping elbow drop. A couple of them have thrown trees at them. One jumped through a van. I feel like...
Oh, I can spoil it for you right now. Yeah, by the end of this episode, you can make a very clear, factual, and logical case that this is the least strong Bigfoot they've ever fought, because it has no special abilities. It can't fly. It doesn't do fire. It doesn't do mind control. It doesn't do any of that stuff. It has not mastered interstellar travel like the xenomorph. It's actually has it. It never demonstrates. It didn't bash its way through a bunch of whatever. Logs or rocks or anything like previous Big Feet have had. So by this point, we don't know anything about its strength other than it can lift very small rocks that everyone on this podcast could lift.
And in episode 7, they fought the creature that did 9/11. I'm just like, Huckleberry says
this is raw strength though. We're not talking omega power levels. This is just strength stat.
Huckleberry says maybe this will help you picture it. There's an old man that told me when he was young that his dad had a 300-pound hog. This Bigfoot came in, he snatched it up with one arm, stepped over the fence, and just went right on up the holler.
That is pretty strong.
I personally know men that can lift up 300 pounds. I'm
sure,
almost
but like under one hand like that? I'm saying that's very strong.
Yeah, it's pretty strong, I guess. This is so clear that the Bigfoot is only strong in the ruined traumatic memories of child Huckleberry. Like, it's I wasn't strong enough to fight him off. Therefore, he's the strongest thing.
Yeah, he's 10 feet tall like a stepdad was.
And then go from that, from Huckleberry revisiting his childhood trauma to Willie going, "We're gonna build a wooden fortress trap."
Which means I feel like everyone listening knows. A fucking box. They're gonna build a box
with the gate,
a rickety wooden box. Yeah, I got something special for you, Huck. I know this is your white whale, so I'm gonna come at it. It's real special with the fucking box. I'm gonna build a log box.
I want you to get the one from last week that with the catapult that will split his head from his body and fling it to the fucking moon. That's what I want. Nope. You get the box. You're getting the box. You're getting the old Willie special, which is.
And he leaves. He's like, all right, have fun building the box, guys. I'm going to go study up on my Bigfoot facts.
Well, they got to do the same thing, right? He's going to head out to figure out where they're going to put the trap while they do some illegal logging in his backyard, I guess.
That does say, I'm more focused on this Bigfoot than anyone we've ever been after. This one here, he's special. More special than the apocalyptic lightning man?
Yeah.
Is he really? You're going to try harder than you did in that episode.
I don't think special is the word you were looking for. I think maybe your therapist is going to have something to say about that word choice.
And what's great is they cut from this. Like, oh, this is the highest stakes I've ever felt. It cuts to him and Jeff just having a nice leisurely stroll through like a flat patch of low grass. And Jeff's take on that is, wow, this is really rough terrain. But, I mean, this is a dirt road that grew weeds. You could run a track meet on this.
Huckleberry's lawn is where they are.
Yes.
They have this obligatory thing where they have to complain about the terrain. I think they're going to do it in every scene of this episode. They're going to remark because Huckleberry's going to say, that right up there is what they call the devil's spine. Like, and you know what? I do believe you call it that, Huckleberry. Knowing you, I think that is what you call it.
The full quote is, "This is what's called the devil's spine, and when we get there, you'll find out why. There's rocks in there."
There's rocks.
That's what
Jeff
he
is
says.
Complaining about a 0-degree incline on a lawn that, like, any HOA would say, yeah, that's fine. That's within our guidelines.
Yeah, this is where Huckleberry parks his truck. Like, it's a truck-shaped indent. And Huckleberry's like, wait till you find out about just rocks. You're gonna have to lift those legs.
The whole gentle nature hike marveling at stuff. They'll see some moss and be like, wow. They don't even explain like, oh, that must be Bigfoot. It's just like we know as the viewer that when they say, wow, they saw something Bigfooty, tears of a child's shattered innocence. Like, oh, wow, you could tell Bigfoot's here because of the tears of the child's shattered innocence.
Because of the police sirens. He's been... I know Bigfoot's in this area. He had to introduce himself to me as part of the law.
There's a sign in his yard.
I'm Fat Shaq.
They hear a twig snap. They find footprints and moss on the rocks. They determine, like, oh, we got to get up higher ground to see. And then a small log tumbles. And, like, the way they film this, the cameraman is with Huckleberry and Jeff. And then it snaps over to look at the log, which is about 50 feet away. And they react like this just damn near killed them. It doesn't fall anywhere remotely near them. And they're like, my God! Huckleberry even says, this log came within 5 inches of our face. Damn near took us out.
No, Bigfoot missed real bad. If this was Bigfoot throwing a log at them, I can't imagine missing worse.
The camera had to pan away to see it.
To see the projectile, yeah. And it says that damn near took both of us out. And the thing is, because we can watch the previous episodes of the show, we know that Wild Bill has come much closer to dying to branches that he himself cut off of a tree and was not paying attention, because he has had them fall within 5 inches from his face more than once.
And his reaction was, "Hop!"
We'll save him. Okay.
Fallen Bill zip. So they head up the hill to see if what throwed it is still up there, and they find a handprint, and they both drop everything and just dork the fuck out. The footprints, nothing. They were just like, fuck, footprints. All right, well, he must have stepped on these two rocks. But then they see the handprint, and they're like, oh, look at the finger span. Do you see? Jeff even says, look at the shape of his heel right here. Like they're reading his fucking lifeline to see. Oh, he's going to have great fortune in his Bigfoot career. Yeah. He's literally trying to kill you right now. He just
This is the hand that took his childhood from him.
He's right there. He's within shooting distance.
And he hates you.
He should be easy to spot. You should be looking around saying, come get me, you son of a bitch. I'm good. This is for my childhood. But it's like, no, this is the field investigation. This is not the hunt. We cannot actually do anything here except for marvel at the things that it left behind 10 seconds ago, the handprint that it left moments ago.
I wrote down a quote here. I'm not sure I got everything right, but it says, Huckleberry says, this Bigfoot's got my number. He's coming on me fast, but I'll guarantee you one thing. I'm coming on him.
It's a little different, but you got the gist.
Okay.
Well, it's in the middle of him shouting a bunch of lines, and again, he's trying to get all of them into the sizzle reel. So they determined that the handprint was the Bigfoot ran away from them and hid and threw something at them and then ran away. Because that's how terrifying this creature is that it runs away, hides, throws something, and then runs away, hopes you're distracted by the log enough that it can get to safety away from you. And in response to this very skittish, nervous creature, Huckleberry says, this is the second time this son of a bitch has watched me, stalked me, whatever you want to call it. I damn well don't like it. I want my damn farm back, Jeff. So
if Sally Field delivered this, I would give her an Oscar.
Because, again, the story is not that the Bigfoot came into his home. The story is that he and his brother went so far out on the property that he's never crossed that line since, threw a rock at it, and it, like, slapped some bushes to make them go away. The way, again, that's where his story stops if you were to only count that as the story. If that was the actual only part of the story, this all seems like madness. This seems like somebody to the point that you expect someone on the team to say, Huckleberry, is there part of the story you're not telling us? Because the way you're acting, like this thing stole its life from you, because kind of, if you think about it, you're saying this thing has stalked you a second time in half a century. That the rate at which this thing bothers you is
lives
3
in your
times per
yard.
century?
It's in your yard and you've seen it twice in 50 years. Like, that sounds like a good room.
Kind of seems like it probably doesn't remember you at all, even if it's the same one. Why would it even think it wouldn't remember that encounter if it's just some kids threw a rock at it and then it ran away?
Anyway, this encounter has gotten so dangerous they have to leave. However, they do it again. They say, we got to get out of here. We're in danger. This is where they should build the trap.
Let's call our good friends.
Next day, trap shenanigans.
They hard cut straight from that to Willie and Wild Bill scouting that exact patch of grass for the trap. Like, first thing they got to do.
Is being heavily guarded by a sexually violent Bigfoot. The
Wild Bill
perfect place
takes his
for
shirt off.
Yes.
That's though to entice it. First thing they got to do is knock down about 6 nice trees to get enough to build some logs.
I have a theory here. I think Huckleberry might have tricked these 2 idiots into building him a new chicken coop. I think because his story doesn't add up. And I don't know if that means he's hiding some dark secret or if he's just like, no, guys, the Bigfoot's on my property. You need to build a nice big log cabin for it.
Well, the chickens could get right out of there, but I think it's a good Jack Shack. I think it's
It could
you
be
gotta
a great
get away
Jack
from the
Shack.
missus.
Yeah.
So they build this massive box, and it is huge, and the logs are big, but they use a single stake. They show a single stake per log, which is, I would have some notes on that if you tried to build my house with 1 nail per board.
It's a big nail.
It's a big nail. That's not the problem. It's not how that works. So Wild Bill says, me and Willie put a bunch of hours in today. Come back tomorrow, finish her up. Get Huckleberry and the others, come back out here and have a look-see at it. Again, this section of the woods that you had to flee because it was too dangerous being attacked. You're going to get we spent all day here. Going to spend all day here tomorrow. Going to get the whole team back out. Going to bring the whole family around and just all hang out right here in the spot where you and Jeff just pissed yourself and ran away. Right here. It does look fun though, right? Like, I don't know why. This one, it looked fun to build this one. Like, I would love to slap together a bunch of Lincoln logs and then, I don't know, knock it down with a bulldozer or something. Like, this is just one of the first, like, little contraptions they build that I've been like, I'm starting to get it. Like, I would go grab a few beers and throw some logs and put, like, 1 nail in it and then, I don't know, dive tackle my friend through it and watch it collapse because it's hilariously unstable.
But no, this some fireworks. That's a fun weekend.
But this is going to contain the strongest Bigfoot alive, is what they determine. Yeah. with 1 nail per board. So we're going to go meet our second eyewitness. It's a hiker named Rob, whose identifiable headgear is a mullet that smells like pussy.
Dude, it is beautiful. The top is all feathered.
Yeah,
it
is a 1980s bar band mullet doing Zeppelin covers or whatever they would be.
Which I don't think they've had on the show yet. I love Rob.
Jason, do you want to try to describe his location?
He is standing in a tree.
In a tree.
He's not just standing in the woods. He's standing like amidst a tree. Like, I know that it so much feels like a bit. They're like, no, scoot, get inside the branches. Like you just exist as part of the woods.
How did he tell them where to meet?
But he's fully at attention, like absolutely ready for anyone who needs a quest in this tree.
Scanning all around for like, heroes, come forth. Just how did they know where to meet him? Like, how? He's in the middle of the woods, hidden mostly in a tree.
So funny.
Like, unless you knew that was Rob's tree, like, you would...
They find a way to escalate even that, because normally make fun of, like, how would you find a guy in this clearing? But it is a clearing. This is absolutely just among the underbrush of a...
I'm sure there's some production reason that they have to they're going to set up a camera on a tripod and they just are trying to find like a variety of places for people to stand. Because obviously if anybody else was making the show, even somebody who had never made a show before, if they had just seen some shows, the witness would be, they would catch him like picking ginseng. he'd be on his knees with a little bag. He's like, oh, hey, yeah, I'm sorry. I told you to come out here. This is where I took my ginseng. I had to get some today before the rains come in. Give him some business to do. Like, it's just because it's like, yeah, these are people of the land, or have the guy out there hunting, got his rifle. They're like, yeah, I'm out here deer hunting today. I hadn't seen nothing, but it's my deer stands over there. And I just give him some business out in the woods. Instead, they're just always standing rod straight in the middle of the foliage, like their
Not
model
noticing
has
the
been
camera
placed.
20 feet from them.
Yeah, I love it. I find it, we're in episode 36. I find it exactly as funny as the first time I saw it.
We keep making a joke that they're like an NPC that's there to give a quest. Like they're basically part of the background, and they exist just to say these words. So whoever walks up to them will get this next quest. But specifically, they're NPCs from video games in the early 1990s, because even video games learned not to do this. Like you go to an NPC now, it's walking around, it's doing something, it's pretending to have a life. We've learned that in video games that they should. And here, Rob is just standing at attention inside of a tree looking for quest givers.
Yeah,
like
the
a meerkat.
arms merchant in a game is banging on an anvil. He's banging on a sword. You got to come interrupt him. He'll turn around and talk to you. Yeah, they give him some business to do.
They haven't learned that lesson. That humans do things. So Rob tells his story. Rob's encounter. He was out ginsenging when he thought he saw a bear, and then it stood up at least 7 feet tall, which I think a bear can do. And but it had long hair, and its shoulders were wide, and it was big. Rob's given like real basic descriptions. Huckleberry feels that Rob's story is missing something, so he's like, "How did you feel, Rob? How did you?" Like an improv coach, how did you feel when you saw this thing? Like, give me some flavor. Rob says, scared. And then after a beat, very scared.
Also, Rob says, that thing was at least 500 pounds easy. Making it smaller with every whip.
Yeah.
This is now officially the daintiest Bigfoot they've ever hunted. They have never hunted a 7 foot, 500 pound, because there's guys I know that are that dimension.
Yeah, this is a butterbean.
Yeah, it's just a guy, and nobody's like, at that point you should be asking, are you 100% sure it's not just like a guy standing on something that made him look taller, like a big dude standing on something? Are you sure? Because again, God forbid you make him take it again. Say no, add weight and height to it. This should be bigger. Last week we fought one that was, I don't know what they said the fire ape weighed. It was at least 700. This thing is now down to like 2/3 the size of the last Bigfoot they hunted. It's a dainty little Bigfoot, to the point where I would expect some dialogue here. It's like, well, a Bigfoot this small must be extra agile and fast and vicious, like a badger. A Bigfoot this dainty, don't think that it's less dangerous. Sometimes the small ones are more vicious.
Well, yeah, that's true of sexual predators. It's often.
And Buck even says, this thing is 3 foot across the shoulders. If it turned and came on Rob, he'd be a dead man.
Because of the caustic Bigfoot ejaculate. Yes.
Yeah.
As we've
it has been established
no
more
life
that
can
some
grow.
big feet have caustic ejaculate.
And their piss is ruinous. So
blinded trapper for most of a day.
With the no life can grow where they piss. Rob knew nobody would believe him, so he went to take a picture. And Huckleberry says, "This man's got some balls between his legs, 'cause I was impressed, and I knew I was scared, and when I was 16 years old and had no fear." The fuck happened to Huckleberry's brain just then?
I really liked this because it's weird for this guy to say, I knew no one would believe me, because that is the theme of this episode. Like, that's why Huckleberry's life was ruined, because no one believed him about this Bigfoot. But it's just funny how he said this to Huckleberry. It's like, I wasn't going to let my life get ruined by people not believing my Bigfoot story. I mean, like a fool. Like, can you imagine carrying that with you your whole life? Destroy a man.
If I didn't get this picture, they would have thrown me out of school.
Because I'm not a fucking idiot. Yeah. And the picture might be a contender for the worst picture they had. It is a shadowy blur of nothing. It's not even like, oh, they CGI'd kind of a Bigfoot shape. It could just be a tree shadow.
It's just
Like,
blackness. It's a black spot. It's weird that they, between this and the last episode, the Fire Ape episode, this was the second time I thought, man, they kind of don't have anything for this episode. In the previous episode, they had to recruit a member of the crew to pretend to have been kidnapped because they didn't bring any props or anything else with them. So they had to improvise like, hey, why don't you scatter your sound equipment around on the ground and we'll act like you got kidnapped by Bigfoot. How about we do that? Because we got to mix it up because we've got nothing. We have nothing.
It seems hurtful to say, but they really thought Huckleberry's childhood molestation was going to carry this whole episode, and it's just not enough. It's just not enough to carry an episode. This is not a character-based show. It's a plot-based show.
And it's also got the same inconsistencies because he's like, I was 16 years old and had no fear, but you did. This whole goddamn episode is about it. Like,
yeah, it traumatized you so much it ruined your life. You got kicked out of school because you were so scared. But then they look at this black splotch, and then I think it's Buck who says, well, that's exactly how you described him, Huckleberry. The black
boy is like, yeah, this is it. This is the blob that touched me.
Saw a forearm.
Had an arm near me.
Look at its genitals. That's exactly what you. Oh wait, we didn't include that in the episode, did we?
Yeah, you said it was like a black spot that consumed all the love in your life. This looks like the black spot, right? That's what you meant. So we made it look like that. So Huckleberry's nearly moved to tears by the sight of this. So killing a lot of pet dogs.
He has
this
to sit
episode.
down at the side of this photo. He can't. He lacks the strength to stand at the side of this black blob. It's like, yes, that's the blob that took my innocence.
So back at the trap shack, now that we've explored the old hillbilly's trauma, Wild Bill and Willie are putting the finishing touches on their box. Just really boxing it up. Boxing
big
it
dumb
out.
cage of log.
They say it has to be the biggest trap Willie's ever built, and I don't know about that, but maybe. I'd still put one more nail in it than that if I was trying to make it stand upright long enough for somebody to come look at it and then close the gate. If that was me. Willie says, for the wooden fortress trap, we're using a weighted trigger. Once that ash man comes in, nugs it a little, slam down the door right behind him. So he's gonna nug it a little. I think we're all looking for catchphrases this episode. I think.
Yeah. Nug is not the next stealth.
Now, you're picturing something else when I say he comes in there and he nugs it a little, but they show you a little CGI animatic of the trap, the Bigfoot coming in, and the CGI model has a little bowl full of crude CGI bacon. And it's not even curly, it's perfectly flat bacon-colored sticks stacked on top of each other. It's adorable.
Had they not mentioned the bacon when they showed that graphic?
No,
they did not. They have not mentioned the bacon yet. So I looked
the
at that
bacon
and
is
I'm
a spoiler. Yeah, when I saw the bacon, I'm like, oh, that's cute. They used bacon as like the generic bait. No,
I figured they just had a preset in whatever like crude Blender rip-off program they're using to make these animatics. They're like, oh, there's a little bacon that can stand in for meat.
Throw the bacon on.
But no.
Because they don't have a pawpaw. They don't have pawpaw clip art.
Anyway, they say, now we need to bait it. And Huck says, I want to get experimental with things. A couple things here. This one, that's their most personal hunt ever, where you need to capture this Bigfoot or your whole life is destroyed, doesn't seem like the one to get silly with it. But that's just me. And Huckleberry says, sure enough, not just this Bigfoot, but all big feet in all the stories ever love nothing more than the smell of bacon cooking.
That is news to us as viewers of the Bigfoot hunting reality show.
Of the previous 35 episodes and then the 7 years that they hunted big feet before they supposedly started this show, that had never come up until right now, that it is universally known. Again, so much of this plays like a pilot episode, like it's the first episode they did. It's almost like the script to a different show that they went ahead and used to. Maybe there's supposed to be an Alaska Monsters episode. I don't know. It's weird.
You know what? This is probably a second take because the first take was definitely Huckleberry says, I know what the Bigfoot wants. And then he holds up his childhood underwear. And he says, bait the trap with this.
That son of a bitch.
We got a note from the network, guys. We can't do that. I called them. No, they won't go. They won't go along with it.
No teen underpants.
What do we have on hand as part of our normal supplies? Well, we got this 12 pounds of bacon.
I mean, that's in Buck's Rider.
I guess I could wear that as underpants. No, that's not what we meant, Huckleberry.
There's so many problems with suddenly deciding that all Bigfoot love bacon more than anything else. Which, first problem, that's so cute. It takes all the threat right out of the Bigfoot. Like, yeah, sure, that's what a fucking cartoon character would do. Second, so all of the times you needed to go find exotic baits, and all the times you had like, well, now we know he eats only the hindquarters of a deer in heat. Like, that was all, it could have just been bacon. So, from here on out, every single trap is bacon, right? Why would you use any other bait? It's cheap, freely available. They love it more than anything in the world. Every CGI animatic is going to have that little bowl of bacon in there. Right, guys?
We'll see.
We'll see.
I really don't know. I haven't watched ahead.
It's astonishing to me how they will just rampantly fuck their entire format with just like one bit of improv and be like, we're not cutting that. Nobody thought to say, hey, Huckleberry, that really ruined everything about the show that we've done up to this point.
The cuteness is a good point because it does make the bacon feel like a cute little guy, like a really relatable, like once he smells that bacon, he's got to get that bacon.
He's like fucking Yogi Bear shit. Like all of a sudden.
Yeah.
He's going to drift in
Roadrunner trap waves. All of a sudden.
Like you left a pie out and just, oh, bacon, my 1 week. Like, no, you can't do this. So Wild Bill says, woo, yeah, you said the right word when you said chow, Huckleberry. At no point did Huckleberry say chow.
No,
it's just...
He never used that word.
Never used that word. Wild Bill just got excited about the bacon. So now they say, now we just have to wait for it to get dark and then bait up the trap. I looked back. Literally all of your stories, all of your accounts so far have seen it during the day. Specifically, you guys specifically went out at night and did not encounter it. You found its little rocks. You never saw it. It's never been seen at night.
Even when it threw the logs at them, it was during the day. And then Huckleberry story, specifically from his childhood, was during the day.
A lovely summer day ruined forever.
This is going to sound like I'm making a fat joke, and I promise I'm not. But Buck shows up while they're like cooking the big pan of bacon, and he is genuinely, sincerely the happiest anyone has ever been. He is just laughing in pure joy when he sees a big pan of bacon in a way that only makes sense if it's just this is his favorite thing in life.
Well, it's on the night hunt when that happens. So we cut to the night hunt now, and Wild Bill is there in a comical huge chef's hat cooking bacon over a roaring fire. And then they cut to a testimonial of him, and what is clearly once again foreshadowing, his hat is badly burned. Like, they never had to show us what happened. Like, you could have just like cut to his testimonial and showed it burned, and that's a great joke. What Wild Bill says is, I'm talking about that call it Chef Neff's bacon cooking corner, and he's making the worst bacon I've ever seen. He's just got like a big steamed bacon soup full of flaming grease in there, and yes, he does light his hat on fire. Yeah, it was foreshadowing.
He's cooking this over an open fire and then dumps a bunch of the bacon grease into the fire that causes it to consume the whole operation and flame, including his hat. This is them asking Wild Bill, just do some fire shenanigans. Just do some fire goofing. We need to lighten this up. This has got too much talk of trauma and molestation. Bring up the mood. Do just riff. Just take an open fire and just riff here in the dry woods.
Yeah, inside, literally, can you do it literally inside the giant box of wood that we built that the whole episode hinges around? Because they do. For some reason, he has to cook the bacon inside the trap, which the last time you guys did this, it burned the trap down. The difference being you are in it now. You are in it if it goes up. And also,
literal cage.
Also, hey, the rest of the team hadn't shown up yet. You guys specifically said Bigfoot comes to the smell of cooking bacon as the verb. Like, he loves the smell of it cooking. How did you know he wouldn't just wander right up to the entrance and now you're trapped in an inescapable giant box burning with Bigfoot? Like,
Yeah, because this should not be prep for the trap. This should be the trap, the cooking bacon. This should not be something you're doing in advance of this is the bait. This is when the most smoke and scent is coming off the bacon. That's the whole point, that it's got the smell of fat in it. So yeah. But instead it's a party. They're all giggling over Wild Bill's
when you add the
chef's hat.
sex criminal element to the Bigfoot, the fire, the enclosed locations, the great strength of this Bigfoot, it might be as much danger as you could conceivably put yourself in. I'm trying to do the math on it. I'm just trying to think, is there a way for it to be more dangerous?
There are so many bad outcomes, and it's hard to judge which one is the worst.
I think getting molested by a Bigfoot inside a wooden prison while it burns down is the worst. I've ever heard. That's it sounds like an exotic hell from a culture I don't want to visit. It's
like an overwritten joke, like one of us might write in 2002 in Backspace. Like, I'm being silly.
It's too much. That's too many things. So Willie adds the huge bowl of bacon on top of the rope to be the trap trigger, so that when Bigfoot lifts his giant bowl of bacon, things start zipping around and he has time to go to, uh-oh, not again. It looks terrible. It's half raw, half burnt to soot. It looks terrible, but I guess Bigfoot's not a... Yeah. I just like that they put it in the big bowl, just like the CGI model, and it makes me wonder, maybe they had the animatic first? And they were like, well, now you gotta get a bunch of bacon and put it in a weirdly giant bowl? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
I was really taken back by the danger of this, because after they got out of the prison, they just hung out right where the Bigfoot would charge for the bacon and just talked for what felt like an hour. Just like, thanks for coming out here and helping me deal with this childhood trauma, guys. Like, anything for you, buddy. We're in no danger. Let's just hang out and have a nice chat.
It's kind of cute. Your abuser loves bacon so much. Yeah, that's weird.
And because Wild Bill puts his charged chef's hat on and says, and he's going to wear it throughout the hunt. He's like, well, it smells of bacon fat because it caught on fire. This is going to help us attract the Bigfoot. And then
to his
Huckleberry,
credit, logically consistent.
Huckleberry gives his speech that again is just a string of trailer sizzle reel lines where he's going to rally the troops saying, ever since I saw this creature 46 years ago, he's lived in my head, deep in my soul, gnawed at my gut. I've been ridiculed, laughed at, thrown out of school, everything because of this Bigfoot. Tonight, I'm going to even the score. We're going to put this Bigfoot right here in this trap. I want my property back. I want my sanity back. I'm going to catch this Ash Man. It's like, Jesus Christ, Huckleberry.
You're building that reel, man. Like, I would cast him in my Hallmark movie as a battered housewife.
Bigfoot survivor.
It's...
Just
because nobody else on the team can match this energy. Please understand that Wild Bill is listening to the speech wearing a comical comedy chef's hat that's like 3 feet tall that has now been burned. And he's
stinking
having
of bacon. Yeah, you're right. Totally. I gotcha. Anyway, back to the hat.
Also, I do like how in the middle of a speech, Huckleberry starts attributing every failing in his life to the Bigfoot. Like, I got thrown out of school. I was ridiculed. I lost my property. I overdrawn on my checking account. My credit score is in the tank. My ex-wife it takes everything and the alimony, and I've lost custody of my kids, and my business failed, and I'm on this stupid TV show. He just starts rattling off things. There's a point where it's like, okay, I don't think everything can be tied to this terrible thing that happened to you. Like, maybe that's what the episode should be about, that it's about moving on.
Yeah. You're not lactose intolerant because you got molested by Bigfoot. Like, some things are just not related.
It is funny, though, they're trying to make it relatable because they're not fighting for their lives or the apples of some orchard. Like, this really is to get the life back of this 62-year-old man who has not had a moment of peace since he was a child. It's also, did you notice that he's like the de facto leader, since he was the very special teen boy who once saw the arm of this Bigfoot? He's the one giving orders in this episode. So he's the one who sets up an entirely new maneuver to catch this Bigfoot.
Exactly. Knowing how important this is to him personally, this is going to need a special plan. So if you can, and I don't know if Jamie, if you can put up the graphic for the YouTube episode, but basically Buck, Wild Bill and Willie, the trap team, they're going to go to the southeast, and then Buck, Jeff, and Huckleberry are going to go to the northwest to the Devil's Spine. And then with the bacon sizzling still and left unattended in the trap, they're going to try to just kind of try to like ease it toward, try to like pinch it toward the trap.
I think I finally understand. Yeah, how this works. Like I'm not a military tactician, so it goes over my head a lot when they talk about this part. So I've got an analogy that might help the kind of listeners that are like me and we're like really struggling to wrap my head around the tactical aspects of it. It's kind of like when you're in Super Mario and you advance the screen, but then you can't go back once you advance it forward. So like they're going to get on either side of him and then advance the screens until Bigfoot can't go in either direction.
They're going to auto scroll him into the bacon.
Yes.
Yeah, because he'll be surrounded from both sides of the world.
And like if he doesn't,
both of the points on the compass are going to be blocked.
Right, if he doesn't keep up with them, the screen will start just dragging him forward, even if he's not walking.
It's true.
All the way to the bacon trap.
And if he gets stuck on a tree, instant death.
Yep.
Yeah.
Even if he ate a mushroom, instant death.
And then here, I have complained in previous episodes that they don't make it clear what they're going to do once they have the creature trapped. So I should applaud when they actually do make it clear. And here they make it clear Huckleberry is going to fight the Bigfoot once they have it in the trap. He says he's going to kick its ass once it's in the trap.
It says he's going to kick him in the ass, which feels more specific. Like I'm going to walk up there and kick him in the ass. That's all I want. That'll get me my closure. Just Huckleberry, just half naked in there, ready to cage fight on Bigfoot.
And say, hey guys, can you come pick up? We've got a dead ash man that my friend beat it to death because it molested him.
But not before it molested him one last time.
Don't worry about it.
And now he can't get closure at all.
So Huckleberry's all fired up. We cut to Willie's team and Wild Bill still in that chef hat on the hunt now with a shotgun, looking intense. And nobody has looked more insane than this mad hillbilly looking intensely with a forehead lamp and a burned chef hat holding a shotgun. Like that's what the face of death really looks like. He actually explains, he explains his logic here. He says, the rest of the team thinks I'm joking around. I'm serious about this chef hat. It's covered in bacon grease, and as you can plainly see, it's going to draw that Ashman right in here. Again, the point is to push the Ashman away towards the bacon in the trap, not to draw it.
That's why you didn't just carry some of the bacon with you, because otherwise that's what you would have done. You would have carried the bacon. Like that's why you left it in the trap, because you want to. But also Huckleberry is going to say, because again, it's not enough just to say, look, this might be a very average, dainty Bigfoot, but it's personal to me. Like, I get that this is not the freaking Mothman. This is not the Thunder Axe guy. But it matters to me. Instead, he says, this Bigfoot's probably the most dangerous one we've been after. And I've sat down and tried to puzzle this out. It has no body count, no injuries, not even an animal body count, right? Like a guy says he saw it haul away one of his pigs, didn't even see the pig die. He could have turned the pig into a pet for all we know. Could have been setting it free. May have felt bad for it.
It was a sex thing.
It has never attacked or threatened a person that they've made explicit. That's all in subtext. So if it did not molest him, what he just said there makes no sense. He can't, because of, like ratings and like censorship, he cannot come out and say, look, we need to stop this thing before it molests another 16-year-old, because that's what it's going to do. Because if you leave that out of the episode, if you think we're just making this up, then it factually is the least dangerous creature they've ever hunted, even less dangerous than Hogzilla, which was just a pig. That thing could hurt you. This thing, so far, a guy photographed it in the woods. Another guy saw it near his house, and then it left. Every time they've encountered it, it has run away and hid.
There's no threat. There's no threat whatsoever if the implication is not there. The whole thing, it hinges on that implication. I swear, I feel like everybody's gonna be like, no, you guys are it could watch the episode. It could not be like they walk through the pop culture tropes of an assault victim talking through their experience. Every
Shamed
step
out
of the
of
way.
reporting it. Ostracized by the community, where they blamed the victim, ridiculed the victim, where they were never able to get like their education back on track because of it is an after school special. And these guys never, other than Wild Bill, nobody cracks a smile. Nobody acknowledges what they're doing.
That's probably literally what they did. They took some
know.
sort of after school special and were like, that's a really good story. What if we did that with a Bigfoot?
Jesus.
Just like they've done to all the Indians. I mean,
This show is incredible. They
Just
can't
like they did to
cancel
James
this
Cameron?
show, can they?
So Huckleberry's team finds a trail that Buck says, my God, that's at least 3 feet wide. Way too big to be made by a human. And then he attempts to crowd himself into it, perfectly illustrating that it's too small for him. I don't know why he literally says
Again.
that, and then
Not a fat joke. They just kind of happen around him.
it's just what
No
happens.
one's making these
How they
fat
film.
jokes. This is just the way things play out.
Huckleberry points out, they feel like they've found the Bigfoot's den, and Huckleberry points out a nearby crabapple tree, and he says, very angrily and passionately to camera, a Bigfoot could get back in there, lay down, eat apples all day long, never have to get out of bed.
That lazy son of a bitch.
They keep. This is by far my favorite trope in this show, is where they keep accidentally describing the Big Feet as hobbits.
As eating
It's like,
apples, specifically.
I saw him running away with an armload of apples, falling around and just munching on the apples while he ran.
And that's
And
why
I
I'm
heard
gonna
him whistling.
murder him with a shotgun. Why
They
does
just
it
make us
us-
sound like the most mischievous little, just the most harmless things in the world, just laying back and eating apples off the apple tree all day, bothering nobody. Nobody owns those apples. They're not being
They're crab
stolen from
apples.
anybody.
Nobody wants them.
Yeah, nobody wants them. It's just living its best life.
It likes bacon and apples. It doesn't want to get out of bed. Like this is a Sunday morning comic strip. Like it's so Buck points out some poop that they identify as bear poop, and immediately they hear a canned bear roar. And
You're
how they
skipping
handle
over
this.
how Jeff got down and sniffed it. He's pee-pee boy, but I guess he's also
You're right. He's a bit
random
of a-
pile of poop boy.
He's a poo-poo boy. He's a pee-pee and a poo-poo boy. We're good. That's now that Trapper has bestowed those powers on him, he can be the team's pee-pee and poo-poo boy. I just like how they see the poop and then immediately hear the bear. And here's how this team of hunters who are currently going up against a gigantic molesting Bigfoot and have gone up against xenomorphs. Wild Bill is wearing right now, as this happens, a hat that says Bear Hunter with a picture of a bear on it. And here's how they handle it. They go into a full panic, back up, and say, like, we gotta get the fuck out of here. That's a bear. We gotta get out of here. And he's mad. We gotta go. We gotta go.
They
Again, you're on-
abandon their pincer movement because they ran into a random bear and decide that their entire plan they have to alter because they can't pass through where this bear lives.
Yeah, the whole plan is fucked because they're too scared of a bear that, again, you're on a Bigfoot hunt. Seems like one of those is probably more dangerous than the other. This it never happened. It never existed, but it's weird that you pretended the bear was scarier than the Bigfoot.
And in fact, as they're backing out, Huckleberry says, if he charges, I'll put it to him. And Buck says, you put it to him. Good and slow.
That is good bear fighting advice.
Yeah, that's how I like to shoot things, good and slow. That's
Good
when
and slow.
when I'm specifically and only talking about shooting, I put it to them good and slow.
You encounter a bear when you're out and about, you encounter a bear, you put it to him. You put it to him good and slow, that bear.
The Wild Bill and Willie find a very large bush and decide it's Bigfoot magic. I don't understand.
They really are. They're just blown away by.
They try to improvise something, and it's just like some
doesn't
vines
land.
or something on
It's
a big
just
bush.
a big like shrubbery. It's big miscellaneous shrubbery, and they're like, I have never seen that. That's Bigfoot. It's Bigfoot magic, and they hear a twig snap, and Wild Bill decides that's got to be the Ash Man, and so he just scurries off into the brush after him, and there's a big thunk, and the camera like stops and swings back, like, oh no, what happened? Wild Bill is down. Did Bigfoot clothesline him? Did he just hit him with a 2x4? What was that thunk? No, Wild Bill ran face first into a tree, pretending to chase a Bigfoot too hard.
This was not part of the show.
No.
Yeah.
He really
did that. Yeah, while shooting this episode, and they just left it in as part of the adventure of danger of Bigfoot hunting.
But unlike when they crashed their forest golf cart and blamed it on the sheep squatch doing a fucking leaping headbutt ram in the midair, which would have been so sweet, they don't improv this to be anything else. Like, oh, he swung that tree at you. They're just like, yeah, he got too excited. He ran into a tree. That happens. That happens to him a lot.
And I was like legitimately worried. I'm like, oh, this guy ate some shit. But what was funny is they cut from him to the other team, the elderly, portly fellows, like just kind of slipping as they go up a slight incline. And I just thought it was very funny how one guy on their team can actually kill himself by running into the tree. And cut to needly burper.
I just like that it really, really reiterates these men are in actual physical danger, but the danger is you can't run around the woods at night when you don't know what the fuck you're doing.
And Huckleberry slips and falls down a slick hill they're trying to climb up and becomes enraged, screaming, "Son of a bitch, I've had enough." When the thing he's
Like
enraged about
fault.
is that his footing was poor on this hill that he chose to climb.
And I don't have to point this out, but you know what's happening. Buck is once again using his shotgun as a walking stick with the barrel pointed at his face the whole time as he slips and falls repeatedly in the mud.
It's funny, though, that Huckleberry is still blaming everything on this fucking Bigfoot. After 46 years, he slips and falls in the woods. He's like, Bigfoot!
Yeah, it's like a perfect metaphor of, maybe you need to move on.
Yeah, maybe. This episode is therapy. This is literally his therapy. So they find more stacked rocks, and that just shakes Huckleberry to his core. The stacked rocks remind him of, I don't know, something. When a branch comes down nearby, the Ashman, they decide, is on the rock directly above them. Like, right up there. The cameraman need only look up to capture this evil, molesting Bigfoot. He's right up there. He's right above them. Just look. He doesn't look up.
God, they were so close to proving Bigfoot exists in these Appalachian mountains.
If only the cameras don't go up. You have to have like a really advanced camera to go up with it. Most cameras just right and left. Just right and left. Yeah. Both of them, we call them the main directions. You gotta pay extra for the bonus directions. No, they don't. They don't. So they go to circle around the rock to get to Bigfoot. Only Bigfoot knocks Huckleberry down, or rather, Huckleberry trips and he blames it on Bigfoot again. His whole life. And he says, Huckleberry, out of nowhere, says, "I'm gonna try something. This rock, the Indians would get on top of it and yell. So I'm going to get up on this rock and I'm going to give a Bigfoot yell."
I mean, he gave the backstory. I don't know why you're arguing about it. Like, it's...
I'm so dumbfounded by all of the world building that must have happened. Like, this is a rock where the Indians would come to yell toward no end.
It's an Indian yelling rock.
No, because they just have a lot of anger. They're very frustrated with Indian life, and they need to come out here and vent some of it. I'm going to try that now, but
give it a shot.
But with my Bigfoot emotions, and spew them out to it. And he does. He just goes, "Yeah!" on top of the rock, like
it's like that moment in Garden State. This is Huckleberry's Garden State.
It actually cuts to the trap team and Wild Bill going, "What was that?" I would love if Wild Bill would be like, "That's the Bigfoot," and just started shooting that direction.
I just like what that implies is that they hear that and are like, "Oh my God, what the fuck was that?" Like, right? It's crazy to think that would not be a monster. To think that might be just a weird old man standing on top of a rock and yelling in the woods. There's no other explanation for that than monster.
I think Wild Bill knows that that's the sound of an Indian yelling rock. He's part Choctaw.
So they listen for the Bigfoot to return yell, like he wants to start an argument with him. And he's just like, no thanks, I don't want to engage with what you're putting out there. And they climb down the rock, and that's when he roars. He finally roars back, and Huckleberry says he knows he's been challenged, and he's pissed. And
okay,
really pissed him off. He's on the cliff above them, throwing things at them again. So they open fire into the night up at the top of the cliff. They just start unloading their shotguns up there, whatever's up there. And then they decide they have to close this pincer movement into the hillbilly fisting movement where true strength comes from. And so that means they call Willie and Wild Bill in, and they come running in to join forces. But whoops, they're on top of the cliff exactly where the Bigfoot is. Also, exactly where the rest of the team was shooting blindly.
So, do you guys think this was a planned plot point that the other team would wind up in the wrong spot? Or do you think they just wound up in the wrong spot? And when Buck yelled, "What are you doing up there?" he was legitimately angry, right. Like, you're supposed to come down here and we're all supposed to do a thing where we join up and fight the Bigfoot from down here. Right. Because you're up there. It ruins the scene because the Bigfoot is supposed to be up there, and now it makes no sense. And we can't not include this in the show. That's nonsense. I can't have you leave and then come back. Everything goes in the show. This show is all gas, no brakes. So you've just now permanently screwed up the narrative we were trying to do here.
I've seen Buck act. He is 100% really mad at them for showing up top there. Like, pissed. When he says, "What are you doing up there?" That's where we said the Bigfoot was. That's where we said the Bigfoot was. And they're like, "What? I don't see no Bigfoot." And he's like, "What are you doing?"
And Wild Bill's even like,
this up.
"Well, you told us to come to the Devil's Spine. This is the Devil's Spine." Like, they're arguing as guys shooting a TV show that they're trying to get shot because it's 3 a.m. and they want to go home.
This is what we determined. The local people don't call this small hill the Devil's Spine because that's crazy. We do for the purposes of the show, and we forgot which one it was.
As a dad, I probably read more war books than everybody. So I know that when you are being pinned down by a force above you, what you want to do is call your backup to the place below you. You want to add people below you. And so when they fucked that plan up, they're like, what are we doing here?
Need to seize the low ground.
They decide, in a real panic, they're like, "Well, he's not here." And then Buck gets really mad at them, and they're like, "No, he's right here. He's up here." They just decide he's right there off camera.
After the whole peeing with 2 hands thing, that debacle, and now this, I'm starting to think Buck might be an idiot. I think he might get everyone killed.
So
he
now
should not be leading this team.
They all decide it's time to run off toward the trap. For some reason, because this is all fucked. This is all just completely fucked. And they're like, "Just start running towards the trap." Literally, they say, "Just start running towards the trap." And they all start running towards the trap as though, well, Bigfoot was in this life or death fight with us. And then he smelled that bacon. And you know what that does to him. He needs his Scooby snacks.
You're no longer pincering him toward the trap. You're just, I guess, relying on the delicious smell of bacon to get it to go there on its own.
This scene should have ended. It should have ended with them like firing up at the ridge as Willie and Wild Bill come up there, and then we cut down to like the team at the bottom as Willie and Wild Bill's bodies just come hurtling over the ridge. Like that should be where that go. Whoops! But no, he's fleeing towards the trap because he smelled the bacon. It's a mad dash to the trap, pausing only to get to Forest golf carts because they don't want to walk. Which is always my favorite element. "We gotta go there. He's on the way. Let's stop and get the golf cart." And then they all get there. They all run, and they're all excited because the door is down. The door is down. They've got the trap, and like Jason said, surely this is the strongest trap they've ever built. They used 1 nail per board, but it was a big nail, so it's invincible.
And they used tree logs, real tree logs.
Surely. no Bigfoot could get out of this. They've learned that lesson. But no, he has gotten out of it exactly the same way. He's punched a comical hole through the logs. Not like knocked them down, but just punched through them like an anime character.
Well, I was going to say that because of the emotional tone of this show, how it feels sort of like it's a fight for Huckleberry's like purity and getting his life back. Like they're all kind of feeling that. And so instead of saying like, this son of a bitch got out of the trap, they all kind of get hit by the weight of it. Like, this thing's uncontainable. It's like, can man tame nature? Man was not meant to hold the spirit of the wild in his hands. Like that's the direction their acting takes rather than like, the son of a bitch is behind us. We.
To give credit to them, they did not simply knock those logs off the beam where it was barely attached by each of those big nails, which would have been the easy way to do this. They actually did shatter the logs and made like a cool looking. Now, logically, does that make any sense? Why it would actually shatter each individual log rather than just knocking a few of them off the nails that are barely holding them in? No. But it is a decent piece of prop work. But Sean, you're exactly right. They struggle with how to do the failure huddle this time because they like to do it knows we mean business at it, and here it's like, oh, wait a second. This was like Huckleberry's mental health on the line. He needed to fight the I don't even remember the name of this creature. He needed to fight the Ashman. Actually, why did it need to be the Ashman and not just a Bigfoot? What was the thing with it forming itself out of ash and walking out of a bonfire? What did that have to do with it?
Maybe that's why it likes the smell of bacon, because it's like home.
Yeah, it reminds it of that bonfire from which it was birthed.
So they go through this thing where Huckleberry initially is like angry at the team. Where he's like, I wanted you guys to see this creature, to know what it looked like, what it smelled like. What its breaths smelled like when it's right on. And then Willie is like, no, we failed you. I'm so sorry. It didn't work, and then Huckleberry has to be like, oh, well, we gave it everything we had. You don't need to be sorry.
Yeah, there's a Bigfoot loose on your good friend's farm representing his childhood trauma. Like, it's a bad day to fuck it up, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, Huckleberry does say, we had him in the trap, we shook him up, we put fear in him. As though he had not set like a win condition, which is that I will face down my monster from my... Now he's like, nah, he got a little scared, I'm sure that's fine. It's such a backslide to like where we were 2 seasons ago.
And, annoyingly, I mentioned that this plot line is actually recycled from the Wampus Beast, which is only episode 4 of this show. That show ended with, because again, it was Willie who had the childhood trauma and had to fight this thing. It was eating his pigs at his farm. Like, it was ruining his life. And when they arrived, it found that it had torn its way out of the side of that trap. The exact line was, he tucked tail and ran. He knows us now, which in no way solves the problem. But they try to do the same thing here. Like, those few minutes it was stuck in that trap, it was briefly contained and then it had to punch its way out. Probably felt more badass than it had in its entire life. It knows not to. Yeah. Like in Huckleberry, it says something like, we put fear in him. So now this Bigfoot knows what fear he put Huckleberry through in this incident that the Bigfoot surely does not remember from half a century ago, because it is just an animal. Why would it?
You're not going to remember every 16-year-old boy you boned in an apple orchard.
And then finally ends with Wild Bill saying, and this is one of my favorite lines in the history of the show, "Tonight was a big victory for the Ames team. We may not have got that Ashman, but we have never been more fired up to prove Bigfoot exists in the Appalachian Mountains." Trademark. Because somebody has to say that line,
has to say it every
word for
episode.
word. For some reason, I don't know if there's a lawsuit, if there's like the terms of some settlement requires them to say it.
Part of that grant money that they're scamming from the educational board, like, you have to have a mission statement, otherwise you don't count as a charity.
Yeah, because I think technically this is like a scientific mission, so we're just out to prove that it exists. And I have to keep it insisting, even though, again, early in the episode, Huckleberry said his goal was to fight it.
Yeah, they surely said, well, we're scientists, this is an experiment. And they went, scientists have like a hypothesis. Oh, okay, well, we just have to say our hypothesis.
Well, here's my hypothesis. I kick that Bigfoot's ass, I get my hymen back.
All right, well, let's stop.
We got a show on that. End the show on that.
We're gonna do our favorite quotes specifically so we don't end the show on that.
Oh, I'll find a nice one.
No, Sean, you're going first.
Okay. Let me find. I did take a nice one. Okay, here it is. And it's no bullshit. This was actually very sweet. So Huckleberry comes and he sees the dumb log cage that they built, and he says, "Willie and Bill, you've won my heart." And Willie responds with, "That's all I set out to do." It's like
it's Last of the Mohicans romance. Like it's what a noble frontier romance they've set up. Jesus Christ. I'm torn between two, but I'm just gonna say my favorite one. Totally out of context. At one point, Wild Bill says, "Oh, she's tight, ain't she? Lord have mercy."
It's a very sexy episode.
I've got to go with, I know we called this out already, but the confession that Huckleberry regards this life as a waking nightmare. His life with the Ames team says, "I'm going to grab my soul back from this Ashman, and I'm going to bring my life back to the way it should be. Not with this nonsense, with you idiots."
It's just, I wonder if they even realized they just made him say, "My whole life is a sham, and this, what you're doing, what we're all doing here, this does not count as a human life. It was meant to be more than this."
No one should have to live like this. This hell of going out into these woods with these morons.
Because you have to be a Bigfoot teacher, you have to open up your mouth. You have to be a Bigfoot teacher. All your friends were so knocked out. You had to have the last word last night. You know what everything's about. You had to have the white hot spotlight. You had to be a Bigfoot last night. Whoa, whoa.